Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a mystery that literally lives inside every single one of us. It's about a story, your story, that has a huge missing piece right at the beginning, your own childhood.
So let's start with a little experiment. Try to think back to your very first memory. How old were you? 3? Maybe 4? Okay, now, what about everything before that? Your first steps, your first words, all those huge milestones? For pretty much all of us, it's just a blank. It's like the first chapter of our own autobiography was written in invisible ink.
That blank spot at the beginning of our lives? It isn't just some weird quirk you have. Nope, it's a universal thing, and it actually has a scientific name. It's something that's had researchers scratching their heads for a long, long time.
It's called childhood amnesia. And really, the most important word to hang on to there is natural. This does not mean something is wrong with your memory. It is a completely normal, expected part of growing up that happens to, well, just about everyone.
And believe it or not, we can actually get super specific about when our memories start to kick in. The research shows that for most of us, the curtain on our memory theater goes up right around the 3.5-year mark. So yeah, if your first really clear memory is from around preschool, you are totally normal. Right on track.
Okay, so why does this happen? Why do we just lose those first couple of years? It's not like nothing important was going on, right? The answer, it turns out, is deep inside the toddler brain, which is honestly one of the busiest, most chaotic, and rapidly changing places in the entire universe.
Probably the easiest way to picture it is like this. Imagine your brain is trying to save a really big, complex file, but on a computer that's still being built. The hardware and the software are getting these huge, constant upgrades, and that makes it almost impossible to keep the old files from getting corrupted or just lost.
So it's really this perfect storm of development, a mix of hardware and software issues, if you will. For starters, the hippocampus, that's your brain's memory-making hub, is just immature. It's cranking out so many new neurons that it's constantly disrupting the networks that hold on to older memories. Then there's language. If you don't have the words to tell a story about what happened, how can you save that story in your head? It's tough. You also need a sense of self, right? An I to be the star of the memory, and that's still forming. And finally, your brain is doing this massive spring cleaning called neural pruning, where it gets rid of weaker connections. A lot of early memories just get swept away in that process.
But hold on a second. Some of us do have these little flashes, right? A weirdly specific feeling, a certain smell, maybe a super blurry image. So if our brains are basically a memory erasing machine at that age, how is it that any memories survive at all?
Well, the answer in one word is emotion. Think of a really strong emotion like a neon highlighter for your brain. It basically screams at your memory system, hey, pay attention. This moment right here is important. Save it. And that's exactly why so many of our earliest memories, if we have them, are tied to these moments of super intense feeling, whether it's pure joy or fear or even just total surprise.
Now, speaking of strong emotions, especially negative ones, it's really important to draw a distinction between two kinds of harmful experiences. You have emotional abuse, which is the presence of mistreatment, things like yelling or constant criticism. But then you have emotional neglect, and that's the absence of support. It's not what was done, but what wasn't done. A lack of affection, a lack of validation. And that neglect, it's often invisible. It's a hole where care and support should have been.
And this brings us to an absolutely vital point. Even if you can't consciously remember a specific traumatic event from when you were, say, 2 years old, your body and your brain can. The memory might not be a story you can tell, but it can live on in how you feel, in your anxieties, in your adult behaviors. The body keeps the score, so to speak.
This leads us right into a really famous but also really controversial idea called the repressed memory theory. The theory goes like this. Some traumatic memories aren't just forgotten in the normal way. Instead, the mind actively and unconsciously shoves them down, burying them to protect itself.
Okay, but it is so important to be clear about this. While nobody doubts that early trauma has a huge impact, the specific idea of repression, that the brain has this automatic bury it button, is really, really controversial in the scientific community. A lot of experts think it's much more likely that those traumatic memories were just never stored clearly to begin with, or that they only exist as these confusing emotional fragments.
So all of this leads to a pretty hopeful question, right? If these memories aren't necessarily gone forever, just locked away or hard to get to, is there any way to find the key?
Well, there's no magic button you can press, but there are definitely ways to try and jog some of those fragments loose.
Your senses are hugely powerful triggers. You know, the smell of your grandma's kitchen or a song that was always on the radio. Looking at old family photos can give you a concrete visual to anchor a feeling. Just talking about it with family can help you piece together the story. And of course, for anyone who wants to explore this more deeply, therapy can offer a really safe and guided way to look at the past.
You know, at the end of the day, whether we can ever bring those memories into sharp focus or not, one thing is absolutely for sure. Those forgotten years didn't just vanish into thin air. They built the very foundation of who you are today.
And really, that's the big takeaway here. Our personal history is so much more than just the stories we can actually tell. It's written into our nervous system, it shapes our gut reactions, it defines how we connect with other people. All of it, the love, the fear, the feeling of safety or the feeling of neglect, it's all baked into our foundational story, whether we have a conscious memory of it or not.
So we'll leave you with this to chew on. Our sense of who we are isn't just built from our own memories. It's more like a mosaic, right? It's pieced together from stories our family tells us, from old photographs, and from these echoes of feelings that come from a time we can't even remember. In a way, we're all the curators of our own life story, a story that actually begins long before our first clear memory ever does.